Yeah, we are live now. Good evening, everybody. I want to believe we are live. Yes, we are coming to you live this evening. Sorry, we are quite a bit late, almost 10 minutes late. We apologize for that. I mean, technology. I'm sure you understand at times you're connecting a number of you, and so technology fluctuates, that's what, and yeah, but here we are. So it's adoption month, and we are excited, and we are saying that adoption is beautiful, and we are just about to go through the journey of adoption. We are calling this evening show Birthing Through Adoption. I mean, of course, we are using birthing as just like the way we say birthing a vision. And so we know that you can be a parent, you can be a mother, you can be a father biologically, but then again, you can be a father and a mother and parents through adoption. And so that's what we are talking about today. And we have everybody together under one roof. We only have our Gladys, who is an adoptive mother. She was caught up on the road somewhere. We are hoping she could join us, but if she's not able to join us, we'll still have her part taken up. And I'm your host for those maybe who are joining and do not know me. My name is Pauline Gikang'ah. Yes, but I'm an adoptive mother as well, and very excited pro-adoption, and I would call myself an adoption advocate. I talk a lot about adoption because it's something that happened to us, and I was like, wow, like I didn't imagine it's the way it is until we experienced it. Yeah, and so let me, before we go on, let me request my guests to, I have a number of guests, and I would really desire that, let me ask them to introduce them from, I said it is conception, it is birth, and it's growing up. So I'll start from there. Of course, the people who first conceive adoption are the parents, are the people who are willing to adopt. And I have two adoptive fathers with me. I'll first ask them to introduce themselves. Let me start with Peter. Please, Peter, unmute and introduce yourself.
Yes, you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you. Tell us about yourself, what you do, Peter, just in a short while.
Okay, my name is Jetunda Peter from Machakos County, Matungulu Sub-County. I'm a teacher by profession, and I'm proud to be an adoptive father of two. Very happy, very contented with myself, and ready to go through this session today.
Thank you very much, Peter. And I must say, Peter had to travel from where he lives to a place where he could catch network. So we are really appreciative that you could come all the way, and we don't take that for granted. Okay, over to you, Humphrey.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Humphrey. I'm an adoptive parent. We have adopted a young girl when she was actually 1 year old. Now she's 7. Yeah, Pauline and myself are related, so she's my wife.
Yeah, thank you about that. Yes, so we are. You'll also see that in our names. Thank you very much for that. So after the parents conceive and they want to adopt, so they get to the agency. So I'll ask the Grace, who is in charge of the agency, just to introduce herself.
Good evening. Grace Ekambi. I am a child protection officer working with Little Angels Network, which is one of the 6 registered adoptions in Kenya.
Thank you very much, Grace. And then after you, people go to a home, and we have a home that is represented here, and that is represented by Dr. Janet. So please introduce yourself, Pastor Janet. Dr. Janet.
All right, I'm Janet Mutinda, and I serve as the National Director at New Life Home Trust. I'm glad to be here tonight.
Thank you very much, Pastor Janet. And Dr. Janet, we'll use Dr. Janet for tonight. She's also a pastor. Am I having an echo by any chance?
You are.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I realized I'm having an echo. Okay, I'm not sure what could be the problem, but I'll find out. Okay, so after the home, people have to go to the legal wing, and we have a legal representative. So over to you, Leah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leah Kigwatha, and I am the lead counsel at the law firm of Kigwatha and Company Advocates.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Leah, for that. And we'll be definitely talking more about you. I'm wondering where my echo is coming from. Now, over to Paris. Paris, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Ah, wonderful. Yeah, we had a problem connecting. We praise God for that. So then this the person who is conceived in the mind and who somebody is thinking about, that child that somebody wants to birth through adoption, we have that kind of a child who is represented this evening by no other than Paris, who is an adoptee. And Paris, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paris. I'm an adoptee. I was adopted when I was, I think, 2 months or 1 month. Yeah, and I'm glad I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, lovely. So thank you, Paris. And she's a teacher. And she says she was adopted when she was 2 months. And definitely we are here a lot more about you. All right, so let's go in, let's dig in. We said we are going step by step. So let me go over to the adoptive fathers who are in the house, and I'll ask Peter to go first. Peter, tell us, how did you conceive in your minds that you wanted to adopt? How was life before that with your wife?
Okay, we stayed for, we don't have biological children. We stayed for some time with our children. And for the conception, then I can say it was, and one of the conception, because for me personally, I was not like adoption. But one day, my wife, just said after some talks, she just said that, oh, why can't we adopt a child now that we have taken about 10 years without children? And I said, oh no, me to take care of a child whom I don't know the father or something. But then she told me, no, I've talked to some people, I know adoption is good. Then all of a sudden, it was, let's go. And we visited the home.
Wow.
Can you hear?
So,
Yeah. Yes. So it is my wife who came up with the idea, but just like an African man, I was for, oh no, I can't accept this. But then she just asked me. Nowadays she called me Babatina. Now she asked me, for all those years you have taken together, you think we can part our ways? But I just told her, no, my dear, through the thick and thin you have gone through, and also through the eagerness that I've gone through, then let's start it. And surely we started. I can say the conception to me was just accidental, but I regret I could have even done it better or even earlier.
wow. So, and I'm sure possibly, Peter, you're speaking for many men, and you say, me, a man, bringing up a child who is not my own. And thank you for sharing that. That is what came in mind first, even after staying for the 10 years without a child and your wife asking that you adopt, but eventually you were okay with it. All right, so what about you, Humphrey? Where did the issue of adoption come in?
Okay, thank you. The issue of adoption for us came in when actually just even before we got married, our plan was actually to get biological children and also adopt. Actually, plan was to get two biological and one adopted. Yeah, so we are now at one biological and one adopted. I don't know whether we'll continue, but for now, we really talked about it before. So really, it's something that we embraced even when we were dating. And so whether we were to get children or not, we are still to adopt. So that's how it was for us. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So what happened so that you actually decided, now let's do it? Is there anything that really drove to now when that would have when that happened?
Okay, in terms of timing, we started, it took, when we got married, we really wanted children immediately, but we got our first child when we were 4 years into the marriage. So after that, and that was just before, because initially we thought we'll get a honeymoon baby and probably get a child in the first year. And now that didn't happen. We had difficulty conceiving. And after 3 years, we decided, okay, let's start with adopting first. And then if the other children come, fair enough. So when we say that, we realized we are actually pregnant and we're expectant. So of course, we parked the issue of adopting first to take care of the younger one, the pregnancy and all that. So the baby came in, and after 2 years, then we decided to actually adopt. So the age difference between the first born and second born is about two years there. Yeah.
Okay, so Peter, what would you say you when you began, when now you were in agreement with your wife, what is the next thing that you did? Did you have to involve your parents, or what did you do after that? You're muted, Peter, sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
Peter?
I stayed away from my parents. So our mom came visiting, and then she just asked, "Now you people, what are you waiting for? I can see you have some property, you have a good home. I can see some abatis here. You want to build an extra house. Why can't you go for a child now? Why can't you adopt now? Now that it is this time, why can't you adopt?" And to ask the following day, I think it was a Mashjad, it was Kenyatta Times 09. Our best couple, who happens to be my cousin, we called them and we asked them, now, where do we start? And they just told us, okay, let's visit adoption agency. That's why we ended up to PCH. We were received so well. It was a public holiday, by the way, but the social work I found here, it received us so well that now my fears just disappeared. And I was wishing as if I could just say, give me a child and I go home now. I'm ready now to take care of a child. So to KCH and everything now started. And I was sleeping, I was thinking as if I have the child in my hands. And you know, I love girls. So I decided, oh, my firstborn has to be a girl. And I thank God I cannot regret.
Wow, thank you very much. So Humphrey, so you have agreed now the baby is taking longer than you expected. Now the biological baby, and now you get a baby, and now immediately after you get the baby, 2 years, 2.5, you decide now let's adopt our baby. We don't want our baby to be alone. So after concluding and agreeing as a couple, what was the next step?
So after we agreed and visited the home, we just
sorry, Peter.
Cast it out.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you. I'm on Humphrey now. I think I mentioned both names. Sorry, it's Humphrey. Sorry.
Okay, good. Okay, when we decided to adopt, we visited. We didn't know the process so well, so we visited New Life because New Life was the one which is closest to us. And then we were told New Life told us, no, you need to go to an adoption agency. So that's why they told us the ones which are near where we live. One of them was Little Angels. So that's why we went to Little Angels and we started from there. and then we did the interviews and all that. I think that will be covered. But basically, that's how we do. We didn't know how to do it, but we were actually advised well by New Life, and that's why we started. And actually, I think because we were quite excited about the whole process, and I was on leave that time. I remember it was August. I can't remember the year very well, but I had a 1 week leave, and actually I did all the paperwork within 1 week, and I handed them in, which happened so well for us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can hear from the both adoptive fathers that when you agree to do it, the excitement is too much. You know, Peter was like, "Give me the baby, I go," and Humphrey was like, "I need to take leave. Let me finish the paperwork and let's do it." And I think I'm sorry, I hope I didn't miss that. Maybe one of the things immediately we did was we agreed we needed to tell our parents. And so we went to both parents' side. So because you know that a child belongs to a family. I mean, it's not just the nuclear. So of course we needed our parents to know. So we went to tell them what we wanted to do. Now it was time we wanted to adopt a baby, and yeah, and after that we were living where we were living then. We just towards. I think that one came towards when the baby was coming. We decided to tell our neighbors that we were going to adopt a child, and we told them we would like you to start telling your children what adoption is, because we realized we didn't want to confuse the children who would be there. They knew we had one daughter, and then they see us with a baby, yet they see women pregnant and get babies. So we gave permission to our neighbors to tell their children what adoption is. So maybe those two steps, we also did that, but we'll talk about why maybe it's important to do that. It helps in probably stigma, reducing stigma. All right, so over to, so they both say they went to a agency. So Grace, I'll put you in here. You are the in charge of Little Angels agency. Tell us what goes on in the agency when these parents who are finally now have agreed they want to adopt, so they come to you.
Yeah. So they come, usually most of them, like I think Peter said, they always come and they're like, when can I get a baby? I want to go with a baby today. Can I get the baby today? And most of the time we now take them through the process and tell them it doesn't work like that. It has to be quite vigorous, because it's a life of a child, and the best interest of that child has to be upheld. So we take them through something we call the initial interview, where we get to know each other. They get to know about the adoption process, we get to know about them, and advise them accordingly in case there's anything to advise on. And then we give them forms to go fill and bring them back. Yes, forms can be filled within a week. They're not that tedious, like Humphrey just said. You just need to be ready to just go through it, run around, get all the referees to fill the forms, get the pictures and things like that, and then bring them back. When you bring them back, we now book you for an interview, a pre-placement interview, where now a social worker gets to sit with you, look at the understand the social aspects of your life. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why do you want to adopt? If you're married, or all those reasons. That in case there's anything, then we write a report on that. And after that, you go for a pre-adoption counseling session. Then these two will help us compile a report. Before we compile the report, to come and visit your home, just to see where you live and where the baby will come and live as soon as you have been approved and placed with one. And again, compile a report and table that report in a case committee. A case committee is a group of different professions that sit to vet your profiles, and they can have 3 different decisions: defer, reject, or approve. In case you're deferred or rejected, they will always tell you why, and based on the reasons, you can always appeal. If you're approved, then we now go straight to the matching department table, take your matter to the matching department, and they start matching you with the child. In the same case committee, children are declared free for adoption, because not every child who is in an institution is available for adoption. So they need to be declared free for adoption. And then after they've been declared free for adoption, those are the children now we are able to match with parents and later place them with the same parents. So after declaration has been done and approval has been done, we match the family with a child, and they go to an institution and look at the match. If they accept the match, they start something called bonding. Bonding takes 1 to 2 weeks, depending with the home. Yeah, and after the bonding is completed, they go home with the child. We call that placement. They are now placed with the child. They stay with the child for 3 months. These 3 months, we call them a fostering period, where now every month they need to come to our office for follow-up. And after that, we take them to the legal process, through the legal process by, forwarding the documents to either a lawyer, or if they decide to represent themselves, we forward the documents to them.
Okay, Grace, maybe just to put you back, because I know before they start the legal, we'll have Pastor Janet, who is in the home.
Yes.
Why would a couple or an individual be declined? You talk about declined. You can either be declined, you said accepted, or what was the other thing? You said 3 things.
Approved,
Maybe you explain a little further. Somebody may be wondering. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe I can, through what the law says, who can adopt. People who can adopt are people between the age of 25 and 65. They must be at least 21 years older than the child they want to adopt. They can be a mother, a father, or a relative of the child. A couple needs to be married for at least 3 years before they come and apply for adoption. And a single female applicant can only adopt a female child, and a single male applicant can adopt a male child. And again, who cannot adopt? A person who is not of sound mind, according to the Ministry of Health Act, a person who has been charged and even convicted, a person who is homosexual, and joint applicants who are not married. So based on those reasons that I've given, the case committee will look at your application. Are you between 25 and 65? If no, maybe you'll be deferred and told, okay, if you're maybe 24 and you're about to turn 25, you'll be deferred and told, okay, please wait until you get to 25 and then come again and, apply. And for example, if you have a criminal record, you have not provided your good conduct certificate, for example, you'll be deferred until you provide that, so that we can know that you really do not have any criminal records. So it's basically the reason for deferral or rejection are really based on the law, and the reason will actually be told to you clearly. But before we take you to the case committee, we as the social workers always take you through all those processes and try and make sure that we have everything in check before you go there and get a rejection or deferral.
All right. I know, Grace, when they visited us, I remember one of the tick lists, there was a fire extinguisher to be in the house. I was like, we don't even have a fire extinguisher ourselves.
Yeah.
Are those just guidelines, or would because somebody would be feeling, must I be of a certain caliber of, financially, or what would that be an issue, or you just want to know the stability of people?
We want to know if the environment the child will go and live in is a safe space, so a fire extinguisher might not be a guideline, but we just want to know, in case there's a fire, is there a plan for anything? We try and look at the worst case scenarios and try and see, is it going to be safe for the child if that child is living in this house? So you will not be deferred, for example, if you do not have a fire extinguisher, but we'll advise and tell you need to be, the space needs to be safe for this child to come and live in. Yeah.
Okay then, Grace, thank you for that. So that's the agency and everything. So after they are passed, so the papers are sent to New Life. So Dr. Janet, the papers from Little Angels, for example, an adoption agency, have come to New Life. What happens after that?
All right. One of the things we ensure is very high confidentiality. So when the documents come to us, and I'll be speaking really about New Life, we only about 2 or 3 people will see those documents, myself, the social worker, and maybe our head nurse. And none of our staff members get to see the documents. Many of our staff members have no idea about the parents' background or anything. After 2 days is when they'll realize these parents are bonding. And we really want to give parents privacy, and we really want to ensure that all their information is held confidentially. So when the documents come, then we may sit with our social worker, and between us sometimes and the adoption agency, we will do the matching. Now, matching is the adoptive parent may have indicated they want a girl, a baby girl who's maybe 10 months or 1 year or 2 years old, or a boy. And then we'd look and say which children in our home are freed for adoption. Not every child in the home is freed for adoption. So we'd look at the little girls, maybe if it was age 2, do we have any? If we do, then we'd also look sometimes at the pictures. You know, the parents, adoptive parents send pictures. Because again, you also want to have as much as possible. And I don't know how this happens. Sometimes I think it's not us matching. Many times I believe it's God matching. Because many times when you meet parents who have adopted kids, unless somebody tells you this child is adopted, somehow, I don't know how God does it, but there's that resemblance. And we really have to be very careful about that, and make sure that at least as best as possible, we follow the requests or the desires of the parent. If we don't have girls, and maybe the parent's profile has gone to another home, gone to a different home, maybe fifth, the adoption agency may meet the parent and say, at this time, we don't have any girls who are freed for adoption. Would you consider a boy? But it is not forced on you. I believe adoption is very much like marriage. Yeah. So there were many men out there, but you only saw Humphrey, and that is who you loved. And I believe the same thing. There are many kids out there, and we can't force parents to take up the children. So when you come to New Life, the first day, once we call you, you'll get to meet with our social worker. We'll go through the process. We'll do all the explaining. And then after that, we will be able to have you meet, whether it's 1 or 2 children who are freed and who take this in context, who follow or who match the criteria. If it's a girl, 2 years old, would show you that. At New Life, we don't force the child on you. Again, there's just the way you fall in love. The child may fall in love with you, you fall in love with the child. And so we don't force you. And we really ask parents to take their time, get to know the children. At New Life, we ask you to spend at least 5 days in our home, and if possible, full days. Then you come in the morning, get to see what happens in our home, what program the child goes through, what they like to eat, what they don't like to eat. You get to understand their personality, at least in the initial stages. You get to understand what they like, what they don't like. And the same, we're also watching the parents, because the child also has to bond with the parents. There may be a child who just does not want to be with those parents. I remember we had a little girl one time, and she went through almost, I think it was 4 sets of parents. And every time she would cry, and it became an issue of prayer. And at every point, the parents would just say, this is not working. Then this couple, during this child's first birthday, this couple came in, and the dad had not been fully warmed to the whole process, even though he had already started the process. And he really wanted a child who's feisty, a child who's, energetic. And the mom used to pray and say, the girl we find, Lord, let her first just love my husband. This child who had kind of rejected or had not bonded with 4 other sets of parents, watched this man walk in, raise her hands to him, and just clung to him. And a lot of the parents who had said no to this child were like, she's too energetic, she's too hyper. And somehow God just matched them. And it was amazing. And till today, I think she's about 5 years old. It's just worked well. So in the 5 days, again, our social workers will be working with you, get to know if you have any questions, you can come to my office, you can come to our social worker. We really want the parents to be comfortable in the process, because when you go home with a child, like marriage, it's not like a pair of jeans. You can change your mind and throw it the next day. This is a human life. And so we want you to take your time. We want you to really bond so that by the time you're living with the child knows you. The child is even excited to go home with you. Sometimes by day 5, the children are waving bye to us who've been with them, which is an exciting thing for us, because we say they really are already bonding. So during that time while you are with us, there are 2 files we will show you. Number 1, the child's legal file. Where did this child come from? What was the situation of the abandonment? What is the paperwork there? And then we'll also show you the child's medical file. Has this child been sick? Do they have any, whether it's congenital problems or not? What is this child's medical history? And then we'll ask you to get a second medical opinion from a doctor of your choice. So you take the child and you'll be accompanied by one of our staff members, but the staff member doesn't need to come into the doctor's office with you. So you get the child, get some medical examination, anything that you'd want to go through, so that at least you are very clear, because we have our file, but we want you also to do your own investigation. Once that is clear, we have doctors in each of our homes who would clear the baby to be released to go home. And by day 5, we ask you to bring a nice cake. It doesn't have to be an expensive cake. You could have even baked it at home, because for us at New Life, every milestone is a celebration. By the way, we celebrate every child's birthday every year. Even if they're in the home for 4 years, we will celebrate the first year with a card and a gift, and then we'll put them away for the child. Second year, third year. I'm currently a foster parent of his 4. So when he came home, I was given his birthday bag for year 1, year 2, year 3. So at least he's able to join his dots even when they get older. So on the going away day, there's celebration. We sing, we have cake. The staff who've taken care of the baby pray. If you want to come with some friends or parents, if you want to come alone, but it's just a day to celebrate, bless the baby, and then you can take the child home. Parents who may not have maybe enough clothes or toys, we are happy to share things that are important for the baby, and then you go home. And then at New Life, during the 3-month bonding period that Grace talked about, again, we require you to come back to the home monthly, just once a month, so that the social worker can find out how you are doing, and also our medical team. The nurse will also be checking. It's like a clinic, because we want to know you're doing well, the baby is doing well. After month 3 of bonding, that's the time now Leah will pick up. You begin the legal process, but all through until you finalize your adoption, the children's home remains the legal guardian of the child. So maybe let me hand over to you, and then we can pick it up as we go.
Wow. Thank you for taking us step by step. I think right here I need to say this, Pastor Janet. I think for us, for me, my husband, the most anxious time for us was when we were bringing her back every month for clinic, and her kilos were dropping. You know the way when when a child is growing, the kilos drop, because she was very big, and then she started, because she, of course, growing big. These people might say we are not taking care of. So what I want to say, it is an anxious process, a very good process, but there's that anxiety. And I remember the nurses kept telling us, no, she's okay. She's just growing. She's now running. So
but it's also important. Yes, but it's also important for us, because unfortunately, not many, but at least in my 6 years at New Life, we've had 3 cases where parents, maybe one parent was not fully sold into this, and it was not very clear. We could kind of see some signs. So when you bring the baby back, what we now do is the nurses will undress the baby in a private room, of course, and do a head-to-toe examination. Because again, during that time, we found, like I told you, I think we've had 3 cases where baby was being pinched and they had marks, around their nappy area. And when we would ask, they say, oh, that is nappy rash. But later we found one was a house help. And, so I think we really want to know our babies are safe. So that's why we are very, very strict about the monthly. But when you come, we are not, even for me as a foster, even though I'm the director at New Life, when I take the little guy, I'm like, "Oi, he fell. Oh no, you're very anxious as a parent, but we're really there to work with you." Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right, so you go home, you do the bonding, and you've actually gone home after 3 months. Now we're at Leah, our lawyer in the house. What after 3 months for an adoptive parent?
Okay, so on the 3rd month, once you've done your 3 months, your adoption society or your agency, Grace, will tell you it is now time to go see a lawyer, depending on how the bonding has gone. And so ordinarily, you may have your own lawyer, or you may ask around about a lawyer of your choice, or you may ask the adoption society to recommend a lawyer. So it is your constitutional right to choose a lawyer of your choice. So when you decide that you are going to come to Kigwatha and Company Advocates, we have a meeting, and at the first meeting we take you through how the legal process looks like, and then we write to the adoption agency to send us the documents, your documents, because they will have had all these documents that you have given them, to send us your documents and also the child's documents. So that's what happens at the first meeting. We walk you through the process, and then we also ask you to think through who you want to be your guardian ad litem. So there is somebody called a guardian ad litem who is supposed to work with you through the legal process, just through the court process. Okay, so this needs to be somebody who is easily available to attend court with you, somebody who will be able to be objective and do a report to the court. And so because you need to identify that person, you nominate that person, and then the court appoints them. So at the first meeting, we will usually discuss what are the duties of the guardian ad litem, and we will give you the extract of the law that outlines what a guardian ad litem does. And then we also share from experience whom we have seen work as guardian ad litem, because the law does not say, it gives the duties. The Children Act gives the duties of the guardian ad litem, but it does not give the qualifications. So we have to figure out the qualifications just from experience, from what is going on in the courts at the moment. And so usually a friend will do. It just needs to not be a relative, because the idea is for that person to be objective. So that person should not be a relative. And they should also, if they're your colleague, they should not be somebody who is your junior at work. Because of course they don't want to.
That name, I've honestly never been able to pronounce that name. So in a layman's language, is it a referee? Is it a
no?
What would you explain then a lantern is? What you see, even I've not been able to pronounce.
So really, the guardian ad litem is somebody who is a friend of the child, who is representing the child before the court, because your lawyer is representing you. The adoption society has already placed you, so it wants the adoption to go ahead. Okay. And then also the children's department will come to, after the first hearing in court, the children's department will come to investigate you. But remember, the children's department will come on appointment. The children's officer, the social worker will come on appointment. So the guardian ad litem is supposed to be somebody who is representing the child before the court. Really, they are supposed to be representing the child. And so it needs to be somebody who will be objective, and that's why many times a friend works, because a friend is you will you are, what can I say? You're unguarded around your friend. When they come to visit, you may not remember that they're a guardian ad litem. You are just proceeding with your life. You're entertaining them, and therefore they are able to observe you in your natural, unguarded moments when you're raising the child, and therefore present a report to the court at the end of the day. And then now there are some courts who are unhappy with friends, and they will want you to appoint a professional social worker, in which case we would say talk to the Adoption Society, because they have a network of social workers who should be able to do the job. Ideally, the law anticipated that there would be a panel of guardian ad litems, that the court has a list of professional guardian ad litems nominated by the Director of Children's Services, but that panel has never been put in place. So for now, you talk to a friend, as long as it is somebody who will be available to attend court and to give an objective report to the court at the end of the process of how the child is doing. And so as long as they are not your relative or somebody who works under you at work, they are considered, the court will interview them and consider them to be objective. So this is at the very first meeting, but you need to know that, because those are, when I ask the society to send me documents, it is now your duty as a parent to go and identify, think through and talk to your friends who would be potential guardian ad litems to see if they will be agreeable to do this with you. And this person will be released at the end of the process. Once the court gives the judgment, they will be released from their responsibilities. So yes, so that's the first step. So we call for documents, you find a guardian ad litem, and then at some point we reconnect. When I have the documents and you have identified who will be your guardian ad litem, we reconnect and we do your paperwork for court. And then, so we prepare the paperwork for court, you sign, your guardian ad litem signs. The guardian ad litem needs to be recommended by somebody, that person also signs, then we put all the paperwork together and we file it in court. And then when we file it in court, we are given, we pursue a date for the first hearing. And so once we have a date for the first hearing, we go into court for that first hearing. And what happens at the first hearing is, the first thing the court does is interview your guardian ad litem and ensure that they know what they're doing, they're aware of their responsibilities, they understand that now your friendship will be secondary, that their primary responsibility is to the child and to the court, and that they will be objective. So that's what the court will be trying to find out. So it's really the guardian ad litem's hearing. You have to come with the child. If it's a couple, both of you. If it's a single applicant, you must show up. You must show up at every hearing with a child. Currently in Nairobi, we are doing virtual hearings. So you'd have to log in, put your cameras on, have your bundles ready. But when we do physical court, you also need to be there. So the court will interview the guardian ad litem, confirm that the guardian ad litem knows what it is that they are being asked to do and that they consent to it. And then the court will also give directions for the children's department to do a further investigation. So remember, you've already been investigated by the society. We are appointing a guardian ad litem to assess you. And then now to look at how the child is bonding, how is the child fitting into the family, how is the rest of the family embracing the child. And then now the court also orders the Director of Children's Services or the children officer, the representative of the director nearest to you, to do a further assessment. And what the children's office is usually doing is even just, it's another layer of assessment, because they are the ones who license the adoption societies, or rather they are they facilitate the licensing of adoption societies. So they are looking to make sure that everything has been done properly, and that your child is doing well, that that you're taking care of the child, basically that the child is thriving. And once they do that, the first thing, at least in Nairobi, they will ask you to go into their office for an interview. And then they will also do a home visit and come and see your home environment and how the child is doing in that environment. And then once they do their report, they file it in court. Your guardian ad litem also files their report. And then, we ask the court for a date for a second hearing. And then at the second hearing now, the court listens to everybody. The court listens to your adoption society, the court listens to your guardian ad litem, the court listens to the director, the representative of the director of children's services, and the court listens, to a general summary of the case. How have the approvals, has everybody approved? How has bonding been going? So the court listens to this. And I need to say that in all those court sessions, it is, the cases are supposed to be heard in camera. The cases are basically, it will just be you, your lawyer, somebody from the adoption society, your guardian ad litem, just the people who are involved in the case. They are heard in camera. That's a bit tricky right now with, with virtual, because if you log in and log out, you might have problems. But I guess when we go back to physical court, we'll be able to do that. And even in virtual sessions, what the courts are trying to do right now is to finish all other cases first. And then now only adoption cases are being heard, so that you're not, exposing to the whole world. There is also that just protection of the child's, of confidentiality and privacy for the family, because it's a private process. So after the second hearing, after the court hears from everybody and hears your lawyer do the summing up of your case, the court will give a date for a decision, and then you come back for the judgment. Many people consider it a third hearing. It's not, it is a hearing, but this time we are hearing the judge. We are not the judge is not hearing us. So for that, you may not need to attend. The first two you have to attend. The third one, that judgment, you don't have to attend. Your lawyer will attend for you. But of course, you're at liberty to also attend, because it's your case. And so, and right now, what courts are doing is, they just read a summary of the case virtually, and at least in Nairobi. And some courts up country are also doing virtual court because of the pandemic. But after that, then you get something called the adoption order, which is from the court. We present the adoption order to Sharia House to issue the adoption certificate. And then once Sharia House issues an adoption certificate, you can go to the next step, which is to apply for the post-adoption birth certificate. If you want it, some people, it's, so I think that's, for some people it's optional. But, you can apply for the post-adoption birth certificate, which now will show the adopters as the parents of the child. The place of the mother, they'll put their adoptive mom. The place of the father, they'll put the adoptive father. And so you have that post-adoption birth certificate, which looks exactly like your regular birth certificate. The adoption certificate does not look anything like a birth certificate. So for a long time, there was discussions, and finally the courts, the Constitutional Court in, I think, 2012 said it is discriminatory to not give adopted children birth certificates. So something I would like to say about this birth certificate is that use it with freedom. For at school, when you're opening a bank account, do whatever you need to do with that birth certificate. But when you apply for a passport, please carry also the adoption papers, because the passport office sort of knows that this is a post-adoption certificate. So don't pose as if it's not a post-adoption certificate. Don't present it as if it is your regular birth certificate, because immigration will really give you a hard time. They'll tell you it's forged. They'll tell you, I think the people at the desk, either you give them adoption papers with the adoption, or they assume, I think they are presented with so many fake birth certificates. So you have to be very, use it as you would, but when you go to immigration, just a note for most people, because it's really heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. I get calls from parents in distress. Leah, you processed this birth certificate for us. We are being told it's a fake. And I'm like, did you give them the adoption papers as well? And then, and then a light bulb goes on, and then they realize that's the issue. So when you go to immigration, because it is, they are part of the government system of the civil registration, the Department of Civil Registration. So if they look in the system and they are looking for a regular birth certificate and they don't see your birth certificate, although we need to do some advocacy around that, Pauline, and let's talk to immigration officers in terms of how they handle adopters. But if you present together with your adoption paper, so you present the birth certificate together with your adoption certificate and the adoption order, then you have a smoother ride. And yeah, that's it. You're done with the legal process.
Thank you for saying that, because we actually had an experience with my husband when we went to take a passport for our daughter. And the first thing we were asked is, they looked at us and then they said, why was this one born in Nairobi hospital and this one was born in Kibera? You know, right there, you know, immediately, because of course where they are born will never change on there. And so we immediately said it's an adoption case, and we were whisked to the, you know, even there was panic, like, no, you guys go there. So I think, yeah, there should be some gentleness, Leah, please. They should be a bit gentle with adoptive. I think that's stigma, right there, isn't
we need to do some advocacy around that. They should say, oh wow, it's an adoption, as opposed to rushing you to the other room.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. How long, somebody is asking, how long is the ideal? How long does it take, the legal process?
Okay, I usually say give yourself 9 to 12 months so that at the end of the process, you have both an adoption and your sanity. Because if you give yourself a shorter time, you may finish, but you will have gone crazy. You will have driven your lawyer crazy. You'll have, because a lot of things come in and interrupt the court process. So for example, we file, maybe there are no dates. Okay, we get a date 3 months away. You know, you may hear your friend got a date in two months or got a date in 1 month, but you know, things change in the courts every day. If a judge goes on leave, it means you know, fewer cases are being put on the calendar. If a judge leaves or is given extra duties, it means fewer cases on the calendar. So it really varies, for a lot of things vary. So don't compare processes. Give yourself 9 to 12 months so that you don't go crazy, because if you give yourself a shorter time, a lot of things happen. Sometimes you have a date and the court does not sit. Maybe that court doesn't, the particular judge you had does not come. Sometimes the court closes. Like for now, right now, we got a notice last week that the court is closed for another 2 weeks. So if you had a date during that time, then you are being bumped to February. You see, so a lot of things could happen. So I usually say, give yourself 9 to 12 months, be ready for anything. The adoption will be granted, but don't give yourself a very short timeline. Sometimes, you know, you're tempted to go under certificate of urgency because you want to get it done so fast. Courts don't look very kindly on certificates of urgency in adoption cases, because they say, you're asking me to make a certificate of urgency. I usually use in the normal court process. We use them to do interim, to make interim decisions, you know, to just hold on to something until the court hears the whole story. Okay, so usually people run to court under certificate of urgency. For example, my house will be sold. The bank wants to sell my house. Please stop the sale of the house until you hear my case. I explained to you that I've already paid the bank. So it's usually a temporary thing until the court hears the full story. So when you go in an adoption and you do under a certificate of urgency, the court is asking, what are you're asking me to make a permanent decision that is for the rest of this child's life, and a very strenuous, and you don't want me to hear the full story. So once in a while, the court may entertain if you give very solid reasons affecting the welfare of the child, the life, health, and welfare of the child. But ordinarily, just to rush through and, you know, and avoid the inconvenience of waiting, the courts don't look very kindly on it. So give yourself 9 to 12 months, at the end of which you'll have both the adoption and your sanity, and you know, and you'll not feel like it was such a terrible process, because many things come up that are out of the control, even out of the control of the court. I mean, Idul Fitri may fall on a day that you had a hearing, you know. We may have 5 judges and then they are reduced.
Especially in our Kenyan courts.
Actually, you know, it's not just our Kenyan courts. I talk all the time to people in other countries, and court is just court. You know, sometimes, you know, even we think, oh, you know, it's just Kenya and it's third world. It's not, by the way. Even in other countries, this I mean, a lot of networks with lawyers from other countries, and court is court. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of, I mean, a lot of things come into play.
Okay. Thank you so much, Leah, and for emphasizing the sanity part, because I think for us went almost to 1.5 years, really. It was quite a long process. Before I get to Paris, who was actually, we are talking about this baby who is taken home, and we have a baby here. We have Paris with us who was adopted. Just before I go to her, you have had people say you have bought a child. I mean, even in the village, and I'm sure Peter will say this at some point when I call him. You have bought the child. How much money does that goes to the agency, Grace? In a short.
The fee is regulated by the government. It's 12,500. So buying a child is a myth. You don't buy a child through adoption. Yeah.
So those are just administrative costs?
Yes. That help us facilitate the process. Home visit, the case committee, the child at the home, just the administrative overheads, like you said.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for clarifying that it's a myth. You do not buy a child. And of course, someone then will ask, what about the legal fee? What is the range, Leah? If you go for a lawyer, what is the range?
The range varies because different lawyers want to charge different fees. I know upcountry lawyers, upcountry life is a bit less expensive, and upcountry you may pay less fees. So it varies, and I hate that question, Pauline, because it always puts me in trouble with my colleagues.
We have to ask.
I get into a lot of trouble with my colleagues. I would say, prepare to pay between 50,000 and 150,000. I know there are lawyers who charge up to 300,000. The other day I was in a discussion in a lawyers group, and somebody was saying charge 500,000. So I can't even. It's even hard to tell a range. The only thing I can say is that there is a lawyer for you. There's a lawyer for you as an adopter out there. Just find your lawyer. Find the lawyer whose fees you're comfortable with, so that you don't put a lawyer who has a certain fee, make them feel very uncomfortable or feel under pressure. There's a lawyer for you, and you will find a lawyer for you. There are sometimes we do pro bono cases when we are if you can make a case for you to do. I've done a lot of pro bono cases, and then but then there's a lawyer for you. There's a cost to it. It's professional fees, and find your lawyer. Find a lawyer you're comfortable with. Don't go to a lawyer and then tell them they're charging too much and call them names. There is a lawyer for you out there, and the agencies know. The agencies and adoptive parents know the various fees that people are charging. Just find out and find a lawyer whose fees you're comfortable with, and there are fees that can be paid, in installments. So I don't think the legal fees should be a big problem, because it usually sounds like we're the most expensive bit of the process, but there is a lawyer for you. Find somebody whose fees you're comfortable.
Thank you. Paris, tell us about growing up, and at what point, Paris, maybe if I would ask, did you learn about that you were adopted?
Okay, my growing up was beautiful. I grew up just as any other child in a family setup, and since the time I was adopted until the time I was 26 is the time I discovered that I was adopted. Yeah.
Take us through that. How did you know that you were adopted?
I discovered I was adopted immediately. I lost my mom through a relative. It was just like 2 days after her burial, and she just decided to let me know that I was adopted. It was not a good one, but at the end of the day, I discovered, and that is the time I started now connecting everything I've been hearing here and there. And then luckily, I came to find my adoptive papers in the house.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
so somebody offered to tell you after your mom died. How was that for you? So when you saw the papers in the room, how was that for you, Paris?
It was the hardest moment of my life. I was not regretting, but it was a shock. You know, this is something that you've never suspected before. I was in disbelief since I had the best mother in the world, and she didn't give me any reason to even think I was not her biological daughter. So I actually took the papers to someone who was close to me and just asked, "What is this? How can even this be possible?" So it was a shock. It was not easy.
You've mentioned that
Yeah.
you started connecting some dots. Do you have like maybe an episode or two you can tell us you remembered when you knew that you had seen growing up or you had heard that made you maybe agree that it is true?
Yeah, I have more episodes. I don't know, but there's these ones that I remember. I happen to be the only child of my mom and dad. So every time I would talk with people like I am the only child, there would be this. That is my peers. When we are at school, maybe when we are playing, and then I would hear someone say, "Ulinunuliwa," you know. Or maybe I would, the way kids talk, and they are like, "My mom loves me, my daddy bought me this," and they'll be like, "Wanakupenda juu ulinunuliwa," you see. Then there would be uliokotwa here and there. And then my dad had a first wife, so I happened to have some step brothers and sisters. And I would remember there are cases that we would go to our grandmother's place and I would be told, "You are not one of us." But then I was a kid. It didn't affect me. I would just look at them and I'm like, I don't know why they said that. Because I didn't grow up with them in the same compound. So it would happen like once in a year or twice in a year. So it didn't even affect me.
Okay. So by
Yeah.
that time you discovered after your dad was still alive?
Yes, my dad was still alive.
Did you
But I just lost him. I just lost him 2 months ago.
Did you get courage to ask him when you saw the papers? Were you able to?
I did not. I did not ask my dad with the fear of hurting him. Because he was this lovely dad. He was so proud of me all through, and I couldn't just imagine asking him that. I didn't have the courage to.
You didn't have the courage to. All right. So now looking back, Paris, you knew that you adopted when you're 26 and an adult. Looking back, would you rather have known? And what would you tell a parent who is adopting now about disclosing to the child? What do you think?
Personally, I think it was the best thing that I didn't know, because maybe the ulinunuliwa things would have affected me then. You know, the fact that I didn't know, I used to ignore those and they didn't affect me. I didn't have the low esteem fact or hate on myself because I didn't even imagine that. But again, when I discovered, it was again hard for me, you know, like, why now? Where am I going to start now that she's no longer here? So I would advise a parent to have a disclosure, but at the best time. I don't think you should let a child know when they are little. Maybe you can tell them when they are of age. Maybe 18, when they turn 18 or so. That is according to me, because for me, I have other adoptees who tell me that it was hard growing up when they discovered they were adopted and they were still kids. So unajichukia, kuna vitu naambiwa zinakukasirisha, and you're like, why me? For me, I was not affected. But again, the time I discovered, it was too late. So maybe a parent can just tell their kids that they are adopted when they are of a certain age. Be close to your child. You can maybe tell them when they are 18 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Paris. Thank you for even disclosing that and what you feel. And you feel if you're told again when you're too young, you feel it can affect, and also the other way around. So Gladys, are you there? Gladys joined us. She was on the road. Gladys, are you there? She was on the road. She was one of the adoptive mother. Okay, she will catch up with us. Tell us, Peter, how was it for you? Yes, you adopted your daughter. How was it disclosing to your child? How was that? And when did you disclose to her? And now you have two adopted children. Maybe take us through that, Peter. Let me unmute you. Please unmute. Please unmute, Peter. I'm not able to. Yes.
Yeah. Originally, when I thought of telling my daughter that she's adopted, I feared much, because I just imagined she could have demanded to know her mother or her parents, in which I had requested that I should not have a child with non-relatives in my application. But then, as she happened to visit a neighbor who had a newborn baby. She asked the neighbor, was I as small as this child? The child was 3 years old. Was I as small as this child? When my mom gave birth to me, sadly, the mother told her, you were not born. You were born. And the guy just came home running and the guy, mommy, mama so strong. Down, and we continue to look for opportunities to disclose to her. It was a bit hard. But later, she was watching a certain program on a certain local TV station. This makes sense. And there was a child there who was adopted. And coincidentally, she loved the child. And she could talk about adoption. This child is adopted, or this. And then it came a time where I don't know even where the kind of name, because I just don't know that she's adopted. She was around, she was at 8 birthday, and then as we were having our fun or this, I asked her, what do you do when you're told that you're adopted, like that child in that TV program? Then she was, but the parents of that child love that child. So if I'm adopted, I have no problem. Then it was just a step. That was the first step. And with the time it came in, and then I just disclosed to her. Originally, she looked a bit depressed, but I had to take her to many outings, talk to her, and then, do you love your mom? Do you love me? And then when I realized that, she said, I have no other option. You are my parents. I love you. I have no replacement for you. Then it was that now I told her. And that's why it was easy now to bring her on board when I was now going for the boy now. It was a bit easy, even though it never came so that fast. First, she knew her mom was pregnant. Mama alikuwa na tumbo kubwa, all that. Then the mama alikuwa ameanza kuwa mkubwa. So she just So that, hey, mommy is pregnant and mommy is bringing a newborn. And then we also use that opportunity to bring the boy home. And we also involved her in going for the brother. And she was all stories. At school, she told the teachers even before we went for the boy, oh, my brother is coming home. I have a brother. I have a brother. Coincidentally, among the children, they were using the same school bus. About 4 of them from my area were just firstborns. And they would just joke and say, sisi ni mmoja mmoja nyumbani kwetu, and my daddy is bringing home my brother. I have a brother. Then just within 1 week, the other week, they saw the child, and I also took the brother to school, and everyone was, wow, you mean this your brother? And everyone concurred, oh, she looks like your daddy, and she was all joy. So exactly for us, she knows she's adopted, but quite unfortunately, she does know that the brother is adopted because she followed a different process. But with time, I know she'll just come out. She'll come to know as time goes by. So for now, she knows.
You said your daughter was how old when you knew? Sorry, I missed that because of the internet. How old was she when you got to actually tell her?
To disclose?
Yes, your daughter.
Yeah, she was 8 by the 9th birthday.
Oh, 9th birthday.
By the 9th
All
birthday.
right. Okay, thank you for that, Peter. Maybe over to you, Humphrey.
Yeah.
How was it disclosing to your child?
Okay, thank you, Pauline. Okay, for us, it was quite slightly different because us, from the word go, even mentioned that actually we told our neighbors that you are going to adopt and all that. So I think from the onset, we planned that she will know as earliest as possible that she's adopted, because we believed that is something that we cannot change, the fact that she's adopted. We can now decide later on that she's actually biological. So, and we thought that if she knows as early as possible, it will avoid the stigma, especially in the society, so that it becomes, they understand that you can actually get children in 2 ways. You can either biologically or through adoption. So as early as we can remember, I actually can't remember exactly when, but it was quite early when she started knowing and talking and understanding. We started telling her about that. And also we have visited New Life when she's quite older. We actually do visit New Life quite regularly. They're our friends. So she really knows, and she can even see where she was. Would even show her the bed that she used to sleep in. So we started quite early, and I think as far as we are concerned right now, seeing it, I think we made the right choice, because we are seeing that she's embracing it. She even tells our friends about them. Of course, some of them are quite taken aback. They don't understand the whole thing about adoption. But by telling her earlier, she's also looking at it and and helping people to look at adoption not as a stigma. And also the other thing that made us also do that is, I remember the Lord speaking to us, and in the book of Ephesians, because we are Christians, Ephesians chapter 1 and verse, I think 5, it says that God predestinate us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ in accordance with his will and his pleasure. So even the fact that us going to heaven, because we will not go to heaven if we are not sons of God and children of God, it's actually pegged on being adopted. So really, if that is eternity is pegged on adoption, what about our human life here on earth? So we really embraced that, and we didn't think, we thought it's good for her to know as much as early as possible. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. In fact, she really wanted to be on this forum, and she's 7 years, and she told me, "Mommy, I want to be there. I want to tell them about my adoption journey." And it's always a joy even listening to her telling her friends about it. And yes, she can't still conceptualize, maybe because she's just 7, but at least she knows that the sister was in my stomach. She was not in my stomach. And yeah, so she says even her, she wants to have a baby in her stomach one day and one from New Life. So we pray that it will work out well for her as we continue doing that. Now, allow me to ask the adoptive parents again this question. What if your child, because this is a question that came to me even before when I put down the poster, what if the parent of the adopted child ever came up, and said that the parent came up, and what would that be? How would it be for you? Can I be a bit selfish and start with Humphrey and then Peter? Maybe if you have thought about it, Peter. Yes.
Sorry, Pauline, come again. You said about parents?
What if the mother of the child of our daughter came? Somebody asked that during the week. Yeah, what would that mean?
Okay, I remember when we were thinking about adoption, and that is one thing. There is one thing that I keep reminding us and telling this to my wife, that you can't own a child. A child God gives you just is for you to take care of the child on his behalf. So even the ones you get biologically, technically speaking, they are not your children. They belong to God. So I look at it, and if we should want to know her mom, and it's possible to find out and who she is or dad, personally, we do not have any problem with that. I think it's good. Well, yeah, it's good to have you have two parents. It's not bad. Yeah, but so I really don't look at it as, we don't look at it as if it's such a deterrent from us actually wanting to adopt or even adopting again, because I think it's good for a child to know their roots and to understand their roots, and for the sake of even their sanity, as Leah keeps talking, using the word sanity, their mental health, their understanding. I think it's good for us. And honestly, personally, I don't think it's a big deal for me, yeah, or for us. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. And I believe if a parent ever looked for their biological child, their child who is adopted, and I'll be asking Leah to shed light on, there's normally the trafficking and adoption, which are normally put on one line. She'll shed for us the light on that. Just before them, let me go over to Peter. Let me, because of time, let me just go straight to stigma. How would you say about stigma? How have you handled stigma? And maybe would you give us an episode which was really difficult for you when it comes to stigma of you adopting your two children? Peter, unmute, please. Unmute. Unmute. Peter, unmute, please. I'm not able to unmute you. Oh God. Yes, Peter.
Okay, now you can. Yeah, with the first born, it was more. There was much stigma. People knew that we had no children of ourselves, and then all of a sudden I'm here. I came home riding that time, carrying a baby and the mother. And I remember the first lady I met, who happened to be a friend to one of my colleagues at work. She just told my wife, "Oh, you have come with a baby. You are lucky you have not experienced labor pains, and you have a big grown child." My girl was now that 1 year, 2 months. It was very painful. Then from there we rode home, we reached home, and that was the talk of the village. Oh, they have bought a child. But then I just took it positively. And I told them, okay, we are rich that we can afford a child. But it's quite sad that you'll never find a supermarket written children for sale. So they were there. Oh. Then I just challenged one and told, just take me to one of the shops where they sell children, and I'll be happy to buy another, or even buy one for you. And they were for, oh, I've never seen any home. And then with the time, they came to understand that, okay, there is a process. And okay, it gave me another status. They just assumed that Peter and the wife are very rich if they can buy a child. they can just gauge a child and they see a domestic animal, and they see if a cow can go for 40,000, then the child can be worth millions. And I got another status, and they respected me. So the stigma turned positive to me now, and I was all for, yes, and even I will go and buy another one if it means buying. So for the first, I overcame the stigma, and with the time they accepted the child. They could not now even talk behind my back. So when I came for the second born, it was so easy, and they never talked, and they were there to welcome the child. We shared, we ate together, and they just know that an adopted child is just a child like a biological child. And to me, even when I go to their gatherings, they don't see my child as aliens, if I may say. They know how ni watoto wa Peter na mpendo wake. And now for 6 months I've overcome. And if I'm told to go for another birth, I will just do it. We will conceive and go for another child. And to me, it's very easy now that I've gone through it. So just an encouragement. Anybody who is intending to start the process, just go. You'll overcome. Stigma will come, but you'll overcome. By the grace of God, we cannot just take that for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And when you were starting, you mentioned that you had stayed for over 10 years without a child. And of course, you are not for adoption that time. Now that you have adopted for 11 years, how do you wish you'd have actually started before?
I wish I had even started with adoption before looking for the biological child. I wish I could have started earlier. It's a regret, and a true regret, eh? But then I thank God, pale nimefika ni mkono wake. So it could have come early, but I thank God for where I am.
Definitely,
Yes.
because I think it's important that you are ready when you do. All right, thank you for that. Maybe over to Leah now. Time is really rushing. Tell us about the issue of and somebody is clarifying here that if a mother came up and their child is below 18 years, and would that mother would legally would they be allowed to take back their child? And then maybe you can shed the light between trafficking and adoption.
All right, let me first start by saying that once you have commenced the court process, if anybody who wants to claim the child has to come and claim them through court. They are not allowed to just show up at your house and say, bring the child, this is my child. Or they're not allowed to go to the to the adoption society or to the children's home and demand for their child back. The process would be for them to come to court and make a case for why they should, what happened, explain the circumstances. How is it that the child is ended up in an institution? Because children don't just end up in institutions. So how did the child end up there? What happened? So they would have to come and explain. So once the case is in court, once you have already filed your adoption, they can only come through court. Also, even if you have not filed the adoption, for example, anybody who has had a child for more than 3 years, if you've had a child for more than 3 years, the law requires that the child can only be taken away subject to a court process. Okay, so somebody would have to come to court, file a case, make a case for why the child should be taken away from you. So there are those safeguards in the law. Number one, if you've had a child for more than 3 years. Number two, even if you've had the child for less than 3 years, once you have started the adoption process, no one, not even the agency, is allowed to take the child away from you without coming to court and telling the court why that should happen. So there are those safeguards in the law, and it is important that people are aware of that, because the process is that the Children's Department has already licensed the agency to do its work. They have also licensed the children's home to do its work, the charitable children's institution, and so there are safeguards already in place. It's not a lawless situation, so the law protects in that way. Then let me also say that I find putting adoption and trafficking in the same sentence is always so unfortunate. It is, I think, the height of ignorance, and also it is just, then it is ignorance that is then perpetuated. You know, the way you don't want to, I hear in my mother tongue people say, let me make myself foolish. When you don't want to interrogate an issue, when you don't want to discuss an issue, when you don't want to go to the root of an issue or the truth of an issue, you can just pretend that, it is what you know. It is like, when we say, you've heard of people who are called flat earthers, people who believe the earth is flat. Never mind the history. Galileo was killed because he said the earth was round. Science showed that the earth was round later. And yet Galileo had already died. So that connection is a refusing to interrogate. It is a refusal to see that legal adoptions are completely unrelated with trafficking. Let me actually read what the law says that trafficking is. And I'm reading from the Counter Trafficking in Persons Act. This is the law on, there's a law on trafficking. Okay, so when you say adoption, and adoption is under the Children's Act. It's a completely different, it is completely unrelated. But just for purposes of education, information, and advocacy, let me tell you what the Act says. Trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a child for the purpose of exploitation. Okay, it's for the purposes of exploitation. So that is what trafficking is. When you bring a child up country to work in your house as a house help, to exploit their labor, that is trafficking. Adoption is completely unrelated, and I look at it as a flat earth theory. To put them together is like saying the earth is flat or denying that there is climate change. And there are people who are strong proponents of such theories, but they are completely unrelated, because it is trafficking is for exploitation. But can you imagine going through that process? The process we have described, we have talked about Grace Ekambi's, the adoption society process. Even after you are placed, you're still being assessed. After you are, and then you go through a court process as you are still returning to the children's institution for the child to be, to assess how the process is going. You go to court, a further assessment. It's such a long and rigorous process. Nobody is going to do it to exploit a child. Nobody is going to go that. And then when you combine them, you let trafficking happen, because the people who want to go underground will still do things underground, and they will not put themselves through the process. Nobody is going to go through that rigorous process for the purposes of exploiting a child. But somebody who wants to exploit a child will do it anyway. In the process of trafficking. So they are completely unrelated, and it is a refusal to interrogate. It is a refusal to acknowledge the difference. It is a refusal to see that these two are completely unrelated, and then to perpetuate and to perpetrate a lie.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for shedding that light, because of course, when it comes on media, it really brings a lot of panic and I believe.
And and the media refuses. The media refuses. Sometimes we have some very good, we've had such beautiful adoption stories, but there are sections of the media that just refuse to interrogate, to think through. It's just to say, just to say the earth is flat, and then continue to perpetrate that as the truth. Or anyway, it's just peddling, and it can get very frustrating, especially when you meet people who should know better, who are educated, who are informed, who are enlightened, and who should know better, still talking about it in that way. It can be very discouraging, especially for me as an adoption lawyer. Actually, the other day in a lawyers forum, somebody was, the same way, speaking, with such ignorance. And then somebody else intervened and said, no, that what you're saying is absolutely wrong. And I was so relieved because I got tired. You get really tired. I think those for us, and I'm sure Grace, you can feel my exhaustion. Pauline, you can feel my. I think everybody here, even Paris, I'm sure you can feel my It's exhausting actually to hear that conversation going on. But then I mean, there are whole movements of people saying the earth is flat. People will say what they want to say.
Wow. Thank you so much. And our time is up. I just want to give us a time for parting shots. Anything you feel you would, I mean, it's adoption month and adoption is beautiful. We have listened to the process of adoption. So what is that parting shot you'd give to anyone who is listening, maybe a relative, to somebody who is adopted, maybe someone wanting to adopt, maybe somebody not sure about it? What is that parting shot you'd give them tonight? And I want to start with Grace, as I just asked a question that has come in the inbox of somebody who came through Little Angels and was separated with the husband and couldn't go through her adoption, and now says she's going through her divorce. And she's asking, will she now be able to be accepted to adopt a child? Maybe you can add that and give us your parting shot.
Yes, she will be able to go through the adoption process after she provides the divorce NICI to us, because that is what, like we've all now come to a conclusion, adoption is a legal process, and that's the document that will be recognized in court. Yeah, so yes, she can now come after she's done with the divorce process. My parting shot will be, now we know adoption is not tedious, it's a beautiful thing, like Pauline has just said. Come to Little Angels, you can be able to start that process and take you through the journey with you. Our offices are at Kamirembe Place along Ring Road, Kilimani, first floor. And we have a Facebook page, Little Angels Network. And phone number is 0729 941 326. So come on, come all. Karibuni sana.
Thank you very much. And you're open now? You have your licenses? I know there was an issue of delay of licenses.
Well, we are open, still working on the licensing situation, but we are really hopeful that we're going to get it in due time. So yes, for now, there'll be that tiny bit of delay, but sooner rather than later, we'll be back.
All right. We pray that that happens. We need the babies home. Okay, thank you. So over to you, Peter. Thank you, Grace. What is your parting shot, Peter? Over to you for your parting shot. Please unmute. Please unmute, Peter.
Yes. Now, with my parting shot, first is to encourage anybody intending to adopt. It is not that difficult. Originally, I saw that there are many demands on adoption, but then it's just, most of the time, it's just a formality. So let them start it and they'll never be the same again. And also, just a word of advice, let us use the right channels, because another channel is illegal and someone can be prosecuted in court. Let's do the right adoption way. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Peter. Dr. Janet, I hope you're there. I know she had a blackout, but she had taken us through the new life. Dr. Janet, are you there? Let's, if she'll come on, we'll give her, but she had really given a wrap up for new life from the, which is an adoption home. Okay, Paris, over to you for your parting shot.
I would really thank any parent who have adopted a child and given a child a home. On behalf of them, thank you and may God bless you all. I'm also planning to adopt, and I would really, I'm a special needs teacher, and there's something I've been thinking about. I don't know if Leah, it's possible to adopt a special needs child.
Absolutely, it's possible.
Because I discovered I've never heard of a parent who have adopted a special needs child, and being a special needs teacher, and I've been working with the special needs children, I would really wish to see parents thinking about that. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Paris. Yes, and I believe from New Life, we've had a parent adopt a special needs
Wow.
child. I should bring her on one day when we
Yes.
are doing this adoption. I'm
Yeah.
sure there are. What would you tell, being that you realized when you're older, Paris, and it wasn't, of course, easier for you later, what would you tell a relative listening who the parents of the child who are, like for you, who your parents passed on and then your dad, and now they, of course, know you're adopted? What would you tell the relatives of that child?
First, I think when a parent is adopting, I feel like it would be better if you let your relatives also know. And because some relatives don't take it as it is. As you heard Peter say, some people will even tell you that you're lucky you didn't do this, you got a child through another adoption. They don't even know your reason for adopting. I think if you talk to them first and tell them that I personally am the person who will tell my child that they are adopted. And for the relatives, I would tell them to love the children. That child belongs to your family now, because there's a time when the adoptive parents will leave and they will still need a family. They will still need to be in that family. Because we don't have a reason to go looking for our biological parents if we are being appreciated by our adoptive families. But if you get that rejection, that is the rejection that pushes us to go and start finding our biological parents.
Wow. Thank you, Paris. That is really deep. And as you spoke, I just thought no child chooses to be, adopted, just like the way no child chooses where they are born. So thank you for that insightful parting shot to a relative listening. Over to you, Humphrey, your parting shot.
Okay, for me is actually, I think, Little Angel's tagline, which I really liked when we visited them, when we were adopting. And they say that you can't change the whole world, but you can be the whole world to a child. So please go out and adopt. Thank you.
Wow, that was a brief parting shot, but full of a lot of wisdom. Thank you. Yes, changing the world of that one. Awesome. Dr. Janet, are you there? She's not able to put her camera this time because of the power. Yes, Dr. Janet, your parting shot.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we
just
can.
Really to it's been a privilege to sit. Yeah, it's been a privilege to sit in tonight. And just to say, for those of us who are in the Charitable Children's Institution, I mean, these are beautiful, beautiful children. None of them signed up for such a harsh start. But then again, I believe that God has a very special plan, because some of these children have been rescued from some very, very difficult situations. But then again, when you look even through the Bible, for those who are people of faith, look at the children who are adopted. Moses, look at Esther, even Jesus himself. It would be great if you did a Google search on important people who are adopted, and you will be so surprised. We have a lot of great global leaders who are children of adoption. So these children are normal. And I believe God has a very special plan for them. Yes, Paris, we have children who are special needs, and it will be a great privilege to have parents even sign up to give a home, a family for our special needs children. So it is a great journey, but it's a very personal journey. Don't do it out of emotions. Those of you who pray through it. Let others guide you. There are those who've gone before. Let them guide you, and just make this a personal journey and a commitment. It's really a commitment for life. And I pray that there will come a time when we don't have to have children in institutions, but they're in families, they're forever families. That would be my parting shot tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Janet, speaking for an adoptive home. Thank you. And for yourself as well as a person. Thank you. Leah, over to you, your parting shot.
I hope my internet cooperates, because it seems to be unstable. But my parting shot is to say, just to echo what everybody else has said, and to say that the best place for a child to grow up in is in a family, not an institution. So, and this is a legal standard. It is an international as well as a local standard of law, that the best places for a child to grow up in is in a family. So let these children get into families, come out from institutions, have brothers and sisters and cousins and grandparents, and just be surrounded by family and grow up. And this is the best place, actually, from the law, from research, from the sociological, from the psychological. Pauline, I'm sure you'll agree with me. And let me also say that when you adopt, the child acquires equal status as your biological children, or as your biological child, when you do the adoption legal process. So if you have a child that, for example, a relative's child you're raising, please do the legal adoption. You know why? Because it comes back later for purposes of inheritance. When for purposes of inheritance, an adopted child ranks equally as the first person to inherit together with your biological, just like a biological child. But when you raise a child informally and you don't do a formal adoption, if you pass on, that child will have to prove that they are a dependent. So they come forth with the other people who are trying to prove that they are related to you. The burden of proof will be too high on them. So please do the formal adoption. Also, when you're bringing up a child informally, for example, if you have a relative's child you're raising, when you get that job to New York, or you get your job to go to Brussels, how will you explain to this child that you may have to leave them behind? What sort of pressure will you put on the legal system to do your adoption very, very fast, because you have to, your job is at risk. So do it early, do it now, formalize, so that the child ranks equally, and the adoption, because the adoption will be recognized all over the world.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Leah, and thank you, the entire panel. I think Gladys is the one who was not able to join us because she was on the road and got stuck. And her perspective was, when she was growing up, she got sick and she had to go through an operation, and in a way that she could, which involved her womb, and so she couldn't actually have children. And so she knew that, and so she decided she was to share that tonight, and she decided, I will want to adopt children. So what are we saying? That you can be a parent. It's another way to be a parent. So it's not, you will not say now, because I cannot have children, I'll never enjoy motherhood, I'll never enjoy parenthood. It's another way that God has given us that we can be parents. I think for me, my parting shot, my goodness, it's been an amazing 7 years for us with my husband, who began by saying he's my relative. So yes, he was on the panel. It's been amazing. Many times I ask him, are you sure she was not in my tummy? Like, I don't know what happens. I don't know whether it's erased. Of course, we talk about it, so I know, but I always wonder, is it so? Because she has my DNA. Our first daughter has the father's characteristics, and my daughter has this. So I could not imagine not having her in our lives. God had intended that we have her in our lives. So when God puts in you the desire, remember we said conceived, when we conceived it, and when I saw her, and when we identified her, what I felt what I felt is exactly what I felt when I saw my baby, my biological baby, the first time I put my sight on her. When I put my sight on our daughter, I just felt the same thing. In fact, I cried. I remember Dr. Janet was not at New Life that day, and I was getting, how can you guys tell us to go home without our baby? I was so, like, the connection came, and they said, no, you can't go home with her. You have to come for a whole month. Like, no, she can't sleep here. I am forgetting that they have taken care of her for a whole year. And then I'm getting crazy. You guys have our baby. And I remember getting there the following morning. These are the diapers for our baby. This is what our baby wears. It's like she was our baby. Like, there's just something that happens. And I remember, of course, praying, put prayers in it, like Pastor Janet said. I remember us telling God, how will we be able to, as much as they march, they also, they do not give you just one child. They'll allow you even to see who according to your specification. And I remember us praying and asking the Lord, so how will we know? And I remember for us and my husband, the Lord said, don't be carnal. And I remember telling my, why would God ask us not to be carnal? Because carnality is looking at the outward. And I remember when we went there, we immediately spotted this girl who had a growth on her forehead. And immediately with my husband, we looked at each other and we said, this is the girl. Why would God tell us not to be carnal? So God is able to give you a sign even for the child. So God gave us that sign. And miraculously, our daughter is now healed. The growth is not there. It went away miraculously. And the sign was for us. So God is able even to mark the child for you, and for you to actually know, God to guide you to which one exactly. So what I'm saying is, it's made in heaven, just the way a biological child is made in heaven. Even adoption is made in heaven. So go ye forth, adopt, if that is what God is leading to you to do. Adoption is beautiful, and it is possible. You have had the panel. So I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you, our viewers, for being here. It's exciting in this house right now. I mean, this panel right here, because this is Adoption Month and we needed to create this awareness. And so bye-bye from all of us, and keep sharing with your friends. And of course, I'll put contacts for Little Angels, for New Life, and for Leah, for legal services. And of course, for anybody of us, the adoptive parents, even for Perry, she's willing just to share. Of maybe you have just discovered you're adopted as well. Paris is there to work with you. So it was nice being here, and bye-bye from all of us. Bye-bye.